Within this lesson, we're going to go through some more appearance customizations, and we're going to go through some of these really quickly because, again, these are going to be theme dependent, dependent on what you want. And here we've already looked at this customizing. We have the ability to customize the header in this particular theme. So if I want to select one of my headers, I can do it this way. By default, it's asking me to crop it because this particular theme's header is set to a particular size. So I have to actually crop it to make it fit into the header properly. And we see here that this is actually where the head information is sitting on this theme. The last theme that we looked at it was across the top. This one's along the left-hand side. So we can see here that it's actually cropped it and created that. So I can save and publish. Now when I go back to the site, instead of the color here, we see that WordPress. When I open up Google Tools, I can see that it's still using that same background, so it's just positioned and adjusted it accordingly. And now going back out of this, so that's header. Again, depending on the theme, you're going to have different options for header. Background, we're going to quickly run through this as well because we've already looked at background. You can select a background image. There's not a whole lot you can do with background, and it always depends on the particular theme. So this particular background is behind here, and we've got some options here where I can do a no repeat. I can tile it horizontally, tile it vertically, position it, and background attachments. So I can have it on scroll or I can have it on fixed. The difference between scroll and fixed is that fixed stays, scroll actually moves when you scroll. So we see the background is scrolling. Fixed would just stay as is. So even when I'm scrolling, so I'll quickly show you that because it is important to understand what the difference is. And this is just typical CSS. So you see that my content is scrolling, but the background is fixed. So it doesn't actually change in its position. So it doesn't move along with what I'm with the content, how that's working. And that's so background. So now I can close that up, and we can talk briefly about editor. So editor is actually different than header, background, and appearance and all of that, because this actually gives you access to the code, the PHP code behind the actual template files. And you can actually go in here. So by default, it brings you to the style CSS. And this is where all of that styling is set. So if you do understand how to use CSS, you can update your styling here. There is some caution that you need to use when you are updating these themes. So if you do make some updates to it, you should back it up before you make updates, because I don't believe within here you can actually go back on the file. So if you make a change, you might want to pull it down FTP and back up the file before you actually make changes, so that you can always go back to the working version. And besides that, there's a few other files here that are kind of neat and something to look at. So this is the default 404 template. So within here we can see, because this is a PHP file, so we can see it's all PHP code. And it opens up PHP, gets the header, and closes it. And then here's the content area. And then here it's giving that PHP footer. So it's calling over to that method that's available and pulls that in. And then here within the HTML, so this is the only HTML part. And here I can update some of this if I wanted to. I could add in HTML. I can update what's being shown here. Here it's got, again, some PHP code. So PHP opens up with less than question mark PHP and is closed. So here you can update it. Generally, you probably don't need to update this or access this unless you actually know what you're doing. But there's a lot of these short codes within PHP where if I wanted to add in another search field or something like that up here at the top, I can do that. And I'm just going to go to a page that's not found. and show you what happens there. So here we've got, I should really change that background back so because it's not really that readable with this. So we've got the search up here, but if I actually update the file, so I've moved the search box, I've duplicated it, and you can see where we can start to really customize WordPress by adding in these different built-in functions that are in WordPress. So you can literally throw a search anywhere, move it around, and if you don't like your error page, you can update it here, and you can move a few things around if you want to, or if you're comfortable with the code. And that's how you update different pages. There's also the sidebar here, single post, page template, main template. So some of these as well are going to be something that you could look at. And then there's also, of course, the style sheet. So if you want to update your style sheet for this particular web template, you can update it here as well. So all of this right-hand menu has all the template files, and you can also switch between different templates. So if you have a file that you've maybe created on SEO and you want to see what how different it is compared to your current template, so they're all going to be different. But if it's got a particular function that you find is useful within that template, you can always go over here, and I'm going to look at the 404. Maybe that's different. So actually, it looks to be almost the same, if not the same. So again, flip through there. So if I select that, sorry, I didn't select that, that's why it looked the same, and go back over to that 404 template, and this time, yeah, it is different this time. So you see there's a whole bunch more options here when I select that, and I can update that. I've got my widget tag cloud as well, so they're providing that in the page not found. So I could copy this, paste it into another one, and have that show up. But all of this is for more advanced users and people that are comfortable with using PHP code.